What's up guys, I'm Andrew, and welcome to Motorcycles Off-Road. Right before we get into the video, firstly, I want to give a big thank you to all my friends who have subscribed. We recently passed 7,000 subscribers, and I sincerely thank you all for all the support and all the great comments you guys have left me. It's amazing to me that in just 8 months we have come so far. I will be placing a sub counter at the bottom of all my videos at the time I edit so we can watch it and grow together. And if you do sub, let me know whereabouts, what number you are. Okay, so this Friday's video is going to be talking all about tires. And we're going to have a Sunday video, and it's going to be talking all about gearing. Why both? Well, I feel, as someone who gives advice on off-road motorcycles, I would be remiss not to mention both tires and gearing back to back when it comes to the impact tires do on your bike and the associated loss of torque. That's right, if you didn't know, by putting new tires on your Honda 300L, in most scenarios, you're actually losing power. So that's how this video goes hand in hand with the next video about gears and understanding sprockets. Also, I felt both of these videos were important leading up to my next Friday's video, which is the top 5 performance mods that I think you should get first on your Honda 300L to make this bike a lot more of a beast off-road. I feel a lot of people will have interest in that video, which is next Friday. As far as tires, I can sit here and try to say on paper which one is best or which one you should try. But to be clear and transparent, I haven't tried them all. Not many people have tried them all. So what I can do is I can tell you what tires I've used and what tires work best for me, tires that I've put a lot of miles on, to give you the most clear and honest review as possible. This way, everyone can find good tires for their specific needs, and also, once you find a good tire for your specific needs, generally, you usually don't need to look any further. There's no reason to keep changing tires and then be stuck with ones you don't like for the life of the tire, or even just changing them before they need. The problem with the 300L is most tires you get will be out of OEM size. So remember this and write this down. The 300L comes with a stock tire size of an 80 by 100 by 21 front and a 120 by 80 on an 18 rear. More common or not, most of the tires you're going to want to run in the rear are a 120 90 by 18. Which means the tire is 10 millimeters taller. Just real quick, just in case you don't know what these numbers mean, the last number is your rim size, and the second number is your aspect ratio, which stock is 80, and in this case, most of the time we're going to be looking at 90. And that basically shows how tall the tire is from the rim. So what you'll end up with is a 10 millimeter taller bike. Not that bad, right? Well, no. So when you make your tire 10 millimeter larger, the size actually de-gears your motorcycle. You'll be taking away precious low-end torque. This is counterproductive for off-road because we need that torque for hill climbing, deep sand, and many other off-road situations. This is why I feel gearing is so important and plays a big role here. So for every 10 millimeters you add to the rear tire, you can expect a 5 to 6% loss in torque. Of course, since we're talking about simple physics, the tire also now covers more ground per revolution, so you will gain 5 to 6% more top speed. So if that's something you're looking for, then that's fine. Okay, so all that being said, now we know some awesome tires are usually taller and we should probably re-gear. So make sure you watch the next video regarding gearing, where I talk about how to bring the 300L back to stock and even add more performance off-road. But as I talked in previous videos, we all know when you make improvements in one area, let's say more focus towards off-road, you also lose performance in other areas. In this case, you lose some comfort on-road. So if you use the 300L for mostly on-road situations, let's say 80% of the time, and maybe you do 20% off-road in like fire cuts, light gravel, stuff like that, the stock tires are fine. They'll get you through all that. In fact, at that point, I wouldn't even recommend replacing the tires. I would just suggest fluctuating your air pressures, and you'll do pretty well. Now let's say you need to replace the stock tires, or you want something more like a 50-50 tire. This is something I run on a Tenere. I think a good fit for 50-50 without sacrificing too much or much at all comfort on the road is a Continental TKC 80 set. These are great tires for someone more geared towards, let's say, the 300L Rally, who wants to do long trips, or something like the Trans-American Trail or a BDR. Also, I have a whole video about setting up your 300L, Rally, or DRZ for a trip like we're talking about here. I will link that in the first comment below. The Continental TKCs are aggressive enough for most situations on a route like this, and generally people who have them report a solid 7,000 miles of range before you would like to switch them out to a different tire. Now some people have worn them completely bald and they got a total of 10,000 miles of range out of these tires. That's a pretty solid investment in my opinion. Generally, you can find these tires for $120 price range, so really that's not bad at all. By the way guys, I'll throw an Amazon link below, and I'll put everything I talk about in this video in one group. This way you can look through prices yourself, and if you decide to purchase from that link at no price to you, I get a small kickback. Alright, next let's move on to something more aggressive. Something that maybe you still want to get a 2,000 to 3,000 mile range out of, but you also want to be better off-road. I would suggest running what I'm trying now, which is the Dunlop D606 rear. And I just say rear, and we'll talk about that in a second. These have a more aggressive pattern, really deep lugs, but they also keep a nice road presence. These tires generally seem to be good everywhere, but the downfalls are the initial price, of course. They're more expensive than some of the other tires for how many miles you're getting out of them, as well as they have really stiff sidewalls, which make it really hard to mount. Now, I mean, maybe some people say that's not a big deal because they don't mount them themselves or they take them to somebody else, but ultimately this would be a problem, especially if you're out on a trail and you get a flat tire and you have to swap out into a new tube. Them being hard to change is going to really work against you there. But that's a sacrifice you pay for having the harder compound, which lasts longer than some of the softer tires. I have the luxury of changing my tires on a Tusk tire stand, and I couldn't imagine being in the dirt and sand or the mud trying to swap out a tube in this. It's going to be a little bit more challenging and kind of a real pain. Also, guys, use heavy duty tubes, please. They can help you avoid flats, and also I highly recommend rim locks. I'll link them also in the Amazon group. Heavy duty tubes will resist tearing and punctures as easily, but rim locks not only allow you to air down low and have the benefit of being able to stick to hard rocks and things like that, they also allow you to ride on a flat, which can really help you to get your bike home. What they do is they compress the sidewall of the tire and lock it to the rim. So that can really help you get your bike home if you get a flat tire and you don't have a tube on hand. I mean, the 300L already has the holes in the rims for the rim lock. All you got to do is pull out the rubber grommet, buy the Tusk ones I list below, and your next tire change, install them. They're great. And on a side note, as a pro tip, if you do get a flat tire on the trail, use some zip ties along with your bead lock to hold that tire in place so that you can limp the bike home or back to your truck so you can properly change the tire. And everybody should have a good amount of zip ties in their toolbox on their bikes at all times. That's one of the necessities that can really help you in many different situations. And as I mentioned before this, don't use the Dunlop on the front. I haven't personally ever tried it, but I hear a ton of people have bad results with this tire. For some reason they love the rear, but not on the front. What I would really recommend to pair with the Dunlop or most tires is a Pirelli MT16 or MT21. Both really solid tires. The MT16 is for more aggressive things. The MT21 is for a little bit less aggressive and more road. So I would say MT21 Dunlop D606. And to put it in perspective, I've had the more aggressive version, the MT16, on the front of my 300L for over 1,000 miles. Mostly off-road though, but I will say the tire looks nearly brand new after all those miles. And I run this thing down to 10 PSI sometimes. And it doesn't dance around too much on the highway. It's really not that bad. Though it is expensive, I think these front tires are the ones to go to, and front tires just seem to last forever. So it's worth investing the extra money into a good front tire. I mean, nobody wants their front washing out. It's all fun to wash out your rear, but the front you never want. Okay, now let's say you use your bike more like me, and you spend 80 to 90% of its miles off-road. And backstory here, there's tons of abandoned areas, abandoned roads in New Jersey and the Pine Barrens that are actually roads listed on Google and everything. They're periodically patrolled, but not often. And as long as your vehicle is registered and insured, you are completely legal to be there with no issues. These are roads that may never have seen pavement, and usually they're like trails that connected two ghost towns, one to another, at the start of our U.S. becoming a nation. So tons of good places to ride. So for me, I need a street legal vehicle that is also very capable of off-road and can handle sand pretty well. So I went with the Michelin AC10, which I heard they are getting replaced with another tire. If they do, I will also put them in the link. But these tires are great off-road. I got about 1,000 miles off of mine, running at about 15 PSI, and they're about at half-life. So I switched them out anyway because I did buy the Dunlop, and it's the start of a new season, so I wanted to start with a new tire. But I highly recommend these tires. They're great off-road, and usually cost about 2/3 of the price of the Dunlop. They're very easy to change yourself, whether that be on a stand or if you had to on the trail, and they hum a little bit and maybe move a little bit around on highway at highway speeds. So once again, these tires are great if you use your bike primarily for off-road. Now, one other honorable mention is on my DR350S. And other bikes I had, I would run Kenda Trackmasters. Kendas are really good tires. They're great soft off-road tires. They've been around forever, and since they use basically the same molds, they're able to keep the price nice and cheap. The problem is, to my knowledge, there is no Kenda true to size for the 300L. The closest I've seen is about 20 millimeters taller, which is a problem once again with de-gearing your bike, but also I don't know if you would run into an issue in fitment. I haven't actually tried tires this tall on this motorcycle, but I can say with 10 millimeters taller, you are very close to rubbing the mud flap that bridges from your swing arm to your subframe. So for this reason, on this motorcycle, I avoided them altogether. So that's my top 3. I hope this video helps you guys. Be sure to check out the gearing video. I'm going to try to make it as informative as possible so that everybody can walk away with a good knowledge of how gearing works with this bike. And my goal is also to help you guys to get the best performance you can possibly get for your specific scenario. As always, guys, I appreciate all of you for taking the time to watch, to leave comments, to hit the thumbs up. This community has been great. You guys have been so awesome. I try to read every single comment, and it just means a lot to me. So thank you. And I'll see you guys in a couple days with the gearing video. Until then, stay safe out there, guys. My name is Andrew. This is Motorcycles Off-Road. Thank you, guys.